When Turkish news outlets announced this evening that Venezuela had closed its airspace, the immediate question was whether this reflected a tangible military threat from America or a political gesture. In truth, it's both. Caracas has entered a phase of acute paranoia about American intentions, and this closure is a defensive reflex to the highly visible and unusually concentrated US show of force. To understand the gravity of the moment, I suppose we should locate it within the Operation Southern Spear, the campaign the Trump administration launched ostensibly to counter narcotics trafficking in the Caribbean. That mission has expanded into a coercive posture designed to unsettle Nicolas Maduro, test his military readiness, and remind the hemisphere that Washington remains unmatched force projection capacity in the region. Closing national airspace is rare, and it is usually done for one of three reasons: the imminent threat of foreign military action, internal crisis requiring complete control of the skies, or symbolic defiance to signal that a threshold has been crossed. Here it is the first and the third together. Caracas sees American bomber patrols, electronic surveillance flights, and carrier-based fighters orbiting the coastline. This is a classic pre-conflict pattern: probing of radars, mapping of air defense nodes, timing of response, and the steady accumulation of strike-capable aircraft within a narrow radius. The Venezuelan army understands these signals well because they've watched the same playbook used in Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Airspace closure allows Maduro to say two things simultaneously: we are at risk, rallying domestic support in a period of weakness. We will not tolerate US incursions, appealing to regional allies and non-aligned blocs. This is theatre, but it's theatre grounded in real anxiety. The facts are stark. The US has moved into the Caribbean an armada of capability that far exceeds counter-narcotics needs. B-52H Stratofortress bombers flying from Minnow AFB, visible on transponders by design. FA-18 Super Hornets from the USS Gerald R. Ford. EA-18 Growlers tasked with jamming, suppression of enemy air defences and escort. RC-135 Rivet joint aircraft mapping Venezuelan radars, communication nodes and command and control signatures, and F-53B stealth fighters, AC-130 gunships, MQ-9 Reapers, P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance planes, and at least 15,000 personnel. These are not assets you deploy merely to search for drug smuggling speedboats. They are assets that prepare the battle space for options. Three drivers are shaping Washington's behaviour. First, Trump's electoral promise to end narco-terrorism has collided with his view that Maduro's cartel de los Soles constitutes a terrorist organisation. The designation becomes active on the 24th of November. Once it enters force, the White House gains far wider latitude for military action without new congressional approval. Second, the administration wants Maduro to fold without need for invasion. The visibility of the flights, transponders deliberately activated, is psychological pressure. It communicates that Washington knows exactly where Venezuelan assets are and can neutralize them quickly. Third, the US is testing whether Maduro's military has any functional capacity left. Venezuela's air defenses are aging, under-maintained, and reliant on Russian technicians who have not been rotating in regularly since Moscow's own war has consumed its resources. The most telling detail is that a US official admitted these flights were designed to stimulate Venezuelan sensors and measure response times. This is an extraordinary acknowledgement. Rivet joint aircraft exist to read electronic signatures, where each radar is, what frequency it emits, how quickly it locks, how operators react, how the central network fuses data. This is the kind of intelligence that precedes comprehensive suppression of air defense operations. It does not guarantee an attack, but it is the essential prerequisite for one. It's too strong to say that an attack is imminent, but too weak to say that this is simply routine signaling. What is unfolding is a calibrated pressure campaign with three possible trajectories. Washington squeezes, Maduro panics, the economy reels, and internal factions turn on one another. This could be framed as counter-terrorism inside international waters or border zones, allowing the US to claim legality. And this would be a decapitation strike under the new terror designation would be a radical and risky operation. It is not yet the likeliest outcome, but the mere preparation for it has already changed regional dynamics. This move allows Maduro to justify martial law powers, root out dissent, mobilize paramilitary groups, and accuse the opposition of colluding with Washington. In authoritarian systems, foreign pressure often strengthens the incumbent in the short term, even as it reveals profound strategic isolation. What to watch for next? 3 indicators matter: whether the RC 135 flights continue daily. Persistent stimulation means the US is refining target data. Whether transponders stay on, America shows its hand when it wants to signal, it switches them off when it's preparing action, and whether the terror designation triggers a new legal framework for strikes on land targets. That would cross a major threshold. Venezuela's closure of its airspace is the defensive gesture of a regime that senses the walls tightening. The US has assembled a militarized pressure architecture around it with a sophistication and scale unmatched in this century in the Western Hemisphere. This is not yet war, but it is the architecture of coercion which makes war thinkable. The next 72 hours will tell us whether this remains brinkmanship or becomes a prelude to something far more destabilizing. It seems extraordinary that a president who runs around the place claiming to have made peace in 8 different spheres of influence should now be proposing war in his own backyard. But there we are. Trump. Madness.